I love coming to entry program. I do, because I get to meet all of you newcomers, and I get the opportunity to say to you, I wish you the best of luck. I wish you a very happy journey as you settle into Canada. I just want all of you to be successful. Thank you. You're welcome. So I am here with New Journey Housing. So New Journey Housing is an organization that started about 5 years ago. Okay? So the reason that we started is because there were many newcomers coming to Canada, and they would go to school and they would ask their teachers, oh, I can't figure this out. I don't know how to find housing. What do I do? My landlord is doing terrible things. They had no place to go to learn about housing issues. So New Journey Housing was started, and we are just so grateful, and I feel privileged to be a part of it because, again, I can help you understand housing. We are located at Portage Place. How many of you have been at Portage Place? Quite a few. Oh, most of you. Good, good, good. You're very welcome to come and visit us. So, New Journey Housing is a resource center. A resource center is a place where you go to get the help that you need. So we are a housing resource center. So if you need to find a job, don't come to us. If you need to learn how to cook, don't come to us. But if you need information about housing, come to us. Okay? So we want to help newcomers learn how to find rental housing, how to keep it, to learn what their rights and responsibilities are. That's our job. So our clients are newcomers. We don't care if the newcomer has been here one day, and we have had several people that come in. I arrived yesterday. We're delighted to have you. We've had people come in and they say, oh, we've been here about 10 years. We're delighted to have you. Because sometimes when you arrive in Canada, your journey doesn't always lead you right where you think it's going to. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer to accomplish what you think. So maybe after 10 years, you're thinking, I want to buy a house. So that's when we want you to remember New Journey Housing and come and get the help that you need. Okay, so New Journey Housing deals in 3 areas. The majority of our time and energy goes into rental, because when you arrive in Canada, most of you are going to be renting. So that's where we spend a lot of our time and energy. The second part is home ownership. And this is another area that, well, it's kind of slow in winter because nobody wants to buy a house in winter, but we try to keep busy informing newcomers on how to buy a house. The other thing that we found when we started that we needed to talk about was budgeting, because budgeting helps you to be successful in home ownership and successful in rental. Okay, so that's kind of what we do. So in the rental area, New Journey Housing teaches newcomers how to search for rental apartments and rental houses. We teach you how to do it. I didn't say we do it for you, okay? If you need help, we are glad to help you. You know, don't ever go away from New Journey Housing saying, oh no, they didn't help me. No, if they didn't help you, go back and ask for the help that you need. We want to help you. And if you come back every week, nobody's going to care. We want to help you, okay? So the thing that you need to know about New Journey Housing is that we do not own any buildings. We wish we did. We wish we had a huge apartment. So when you come with 6 kids and a mom and dad, we can say, oh, we have a 6-bedroom apartment right here for you. We don't. So unfortunately, what we have to do is we have to introduce you to the landlords that are out there. And that's part of what we do. We have some landlords that will call us and they'll say, hey, we have a 3-bedroom apartment. Do you have anybody that needs it? And so then our rental advisors will look through their list, you know, and if you're on their list, they'll call you and say, hey, this guy phoned and said he had an apartment. Okay? So that's one way that we help you. We have, sometimes we have a hard time finding what you need. We can't give you any guarantees. That's really sad for us, because we'd like to say, if you come, we'll find you something. But you know, sometimes it's hard to find things that you can afford. Sometimes it's hard to find things in a big hurry. You know, so please come with the understanding that we are going to work together and do our best at finding you a place to live. So when you are thinking about rental, there are many, many questions that people come to New Journey Housing with. They will come in and one person said, I paid my rent and then I got a great big huge bill from Manitoba Hydro. And this is true. So when you rent, sometimes your utilities are included and sometimes they're not. You need to understand that. This person didn't understand. Something broke in my apartment. What am I supposed to do? Well, we can help you to understand that. How do I start looking for a place? That's what we're there for. I don't understand this lease. Whenever you rent, you sign a lease. Sometimes newcomers sign the lease and then they look at it later and say, I don't know what I signed. So if you ever do that, make sure you bring that lease into New Journey Housing and we can go through it together with you to make sure that you understand. I can't find a place that I can afford to live. This is a hard one, but this is a very common one that comes to New Journey Housing. Can I move out of my apartment anytime I want? It's a question that comes to New Journey Housing quite often. So, with these questions and others, we have 2 ways that we can help you. So the first way that we can help you is we do a rental workshop. A rental workshop takes 2.5 of your hours. But we believe that it's well worth your time to come and spend that 2.5 hours learning about renting in Manitoba. You will learn about leases and rent payments and condition reports and taking care of your apartment, all of those kinds of things. And at the end of the workshop, when you've done the 2.5 hours with us, we will give you a rental training certificate. Now, this certificate, you can make as many copies of it as you want. Okay? You can make 10 copies, and every time you go to apply to an apartment, you can hand it to the landlord. The landlord will see that you have learned about all of these things, and we hope that it will make it easier for you to find a place to rent. Again, we can't guarantee it, but we hope that it will help you. After you have done the workshop, some of you are going to need additional help. And so that's when, on your way out from the workshop, you can stop at the desk and you can say, I want to make an appointment with one of the rental advisors. Then you'll make an appointment. The rental advisor will sit down with you and listen to what you have to say. Listen to what your needs are, what changes you need to make, whatever it is that you want to talk about. They're going to talk to you about it and try to figure out answers to your questions. In the workshop, it's very general, like it is today. So today, I am going to talk to you about some rental issues. But remember, I'm going to talk to you about this much of the rental issues, and there's this many. Okay? So I'm only going to talk about a few of them. So when you go home today, don't think, oh, I know everything about renting in Manitoba. Okay? What a way to begin talking about rental. How many of you know what bed bugs are? Anybody heard of bed bugs? Yes. Yes? Oh dear. I thought we only had them in Canada. Oh, do you know what? Bed bugs are just nasty little pests that are very common in Winnipeg. Yes, they are. Very common in Winnipeg. And you know what? You're going to hear the reason. The reason that we have bed bugs so bad is because we can't use DDT, because DDT was killing people along with the bugs. We didn't want that, so we can't use it anymore. So we have to work much harder at getting rid of our bed bugs. So I want you to know that bed bugs are drawn to your breath. So during the day, when you're up and busy and running around in your house, they can't catch you, right? But at night, you go to bed, you lie down, and you go to sleep, and you breathe in and out. That's when the bed bugs come and find you, okay? So now, a bed bug lives on human blood. I'm sorry, but they do. That's what they live on. Some people, when they get bit by a bed bug, they will get a big red mark. Some people never know that they got bit by a bed bug. So some people find bed bugs much quicker than other people. If you got big red splotches coming all over yourself, you're going to guess that you have bed bugs. Okay? So I'm going to give you a quiz. What should you do if you find a bed bug? Okay, so A, you should kill the bug, and then don't tell anybody. Keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody that you found a bed bug. That's A. B, no. Just ignore it. It'll go away. Okay, or C, panic. Run around the room. Oh no, there's bed bugs and they're sucking my blood. What am I going to do? That's C. Or D is tell your landlord. Tell your landlord. Yes, that is the right answer. But you would not believe how many people do these things. Many people kill the bed bug and they don't tell anybody because they think there won't be any more. Sometimes they think if we ignore it, they'll go away. Oh man, you're dreaming. Because bed bugs lay lots of eggs. And those eggs hatch and they become bed bugs. And the bed bugs lay eggs and the eggs hatch. Oh my. So don't ignore them. They won't go away. Now, panicking, it's a pretty normal reaction, actually. It really is, because nobody wants to find out that they have bed bugs. But it really doesn't help a lot. It really doesn't help a lot. So the best thing that you can do is to tell your landlord. It is not always easy to tell your landlord, because often people are embarrassed. Oh, I have bed bugs. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I'm not telling my landlord. My landlord will get mad at me. And you know what? He might. But if you don't tell your landlord, the bed bugs are just going to keep reproducing and reproducing, and then they're going to move to your neighbor's suite, and then they're going to move to the neighbor's suite over here, and then they're going to go up the pipes and go into your neighbor's suite above you. So as hard as it is to tell your landlord, you need to tell your landlord. Now, the rules in Manitoba are that the landlord needs to help you kill the bed bugs. That is his job. If he can prove that you brought the bed bugs in, then he can charge you. So if you bring some used furniture in and the landlord sees you bringing it in and he happens to see a bed bug on it, you will have to pay for getting rid of the bed bugs. But if he can't prove it, he needs to pay for the bed bugs. So when you phone your landlord, if you tell your landlord, I want to work together with you to get rid of these bugs, the landlord is going to be happy to work with you. Now, New Journey Housing can also help you with that. We can tell you about heat trucks where you can heat your furniture and kill all the bugs before you move to a new place. We can tell you about how to get ready for being treated for bed bugs. We can help you with all of that. So don't forget about us if you get bed bugs, okay? So I really encourage you to keep your eyes open for them. You will find them on your bed, usually under your bed sheets, and they usually try to live in a dark spot. So when you're changing your sheets, just have a look. The way you will know they are there is that you will find little, they look like little blood spots. You know how blood looks when it dries out, almost black? That's how the spots will look. And if you see them, don't panic, but call your landlord. The main thing that I want you to remember about bed bugs is don't keep it a secret. This is about how big they are. An adult. A baby one can look just like a little spider. Now the bad part's over. So the next thing I want to talk about is residential tenancies branch. Usually you will hear people talk about it as RTB. RTB, remember that. Because maybe when you're having a problem with your rental, somebody's going to say, oh, you should call RTB. Now you know what RTB is, Residential Tenancies Branch. They are a branch of the government of Manitoba. The job that this branch of the government has is to keep tabs on the rental in Manitoba. So they write the rules that landlords have to follow, and they write the rules that tenants have to follow. They tell the landlord what their responsibilities are, and they tell the tenant what their responsibilities are. And they help to enforce those rules. So a landlord can go to RTB about a problem, or a tenant can go to RTB about a problem. Okay? It's a very important place. And I know that some of you come from countries where you don't trust the government. Well, this hardly seems like government. They're just a department that is there to help you. But the only way they can help you is if you go and ask for that help. So don't be afraid of them. If you don't know whether your issue should go to RTB, you can come to New Journey Housing, talk to one of our rental advisors, and we will help you to know whether it's a good thing to go there or not. Okay? So one of the things that often happens is if a landlord tries to tell you that you must pay for the bed bug spraying, and that can be $600–800. And if you know that the landlord cannot prove that you brought the bed bugs in there, if you didn't bring any used furniture in or anything, then you can go to RTB and you usually win your case, usually. Okay? So when you've lived in Canada for about a year, and all of a sudden you say, oh, I really want to move out of this place. I'm kind of tired of my neighbors up above, but how do I start to look? So I have a few suggestions for you. So I think that one of the most common ways that people look for apartments is they pick this up. You've seen it. I know it's here at Entry Program. They always get new ones in here, okay? The Renter's Guide. Now, the Renter's Guide has many, many apartments. So it can be a little bit overwhelming if you start looking through all of these. You know, oh my goodness, there's hundreds of apartments in here. How do I know where to look? So the best idea is to look at how the city is divided up. So the city is divided into sections. And if you know that you want to live in the southeast, well then you just look over here to the green part and it says southeast, and it says that all those apartments begin on page 15. So then you go to page 15 and you start looking there. It doesn't mean you don't have to spend your whole day looking at every apartment in the book. Okay? It can get overwhelming. And then what I do is, in my mind, I have decided how much rent I can afford. I have decided what kind of an apartment I want. I don't feel safe living on the first floor. I want to live on the third floor. Okay? So then when I'm reading about the apartments, the ones that met my needs, I would circle them. And maybe you'll find 3 or 4. And then you can start phoning them. So you don't need to phone every place in the book. Okay? So set your priorities and work from your priorities. So this is probably the most common way. Now, another place that you can look is you can buy the Winnipeg Free Press. I just cut the top off just so that you can see it. Okay, so this is, the Winnipeg Free Press is published 6 days a week. The day that I suggest you buy it is on a Saturday, because Saturday has what is called a marketplace section. Inside of the marketplace sections is listings of apartments that are for rent or houses that are for rent. So you can look through here. This is another really good place to look for apartments, okay? Now, just by the way, when my friend arrived in Canada, he was walking around in the shops and he saw the Winnipeg Free Press, so he picked one up and walked out of the shop. And so the shop owner, hey, you can't take that paper. He says, but it says that it's free. So the Winnipeg Free Press is not free. You have to buy it. Okay, so some of you have computers. If you have computers, it's really good to learn how to look for apartments on your computer. So I have listed a few of the websites that you can look at. By far, the most common is Kijiji. And you can go to Kijiji and then you can just type in 3-bedroom apartment or 1-bedroom apartment or whatever it is that you need, okay? And then you can look for apartments there. These are listed in the handout that I gave you, so you don't need to copy them down. They're listed in the handout. Now, in Winnipeg, we have what is called a low vacancy rate. That means that there are many people looking for only a few apartments. Okay, so when there's an apartment up for rent, lots of people go look for that apartment. So sometimes a landlord does not want to pay money to advertise it in here. Sometimes he doesn't want to pay money to advertise it in here. So what he does is he just makes up a nice little sign, apartment for rent, phone, da-da-da-da-da, and he puts it in the window, or he puts it on a post in front of his building. So that is another really good way to look for apartments. So if you know that you want to live in a certain area, go for a walk. Take a pen and paper with you and write down phone numbers and come home and phone them. Okay? So because we have a low vacancy rate, rental units go quickly. So if you pick up the renter's guide, and this one finishes on February 21st, it's done. So most of these apartments are going to be gone. So you need to try to pick up the renter's guide when it's new, when it first comes out, okay? And when you get the free press, don't wait until the next week to phone. Phone on Saturday. When you are phoning, in your mind, try to know what your schedule is. Okay, I go to school on Monday, Tuesday, I'm done at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, you know, whatever your schedule is. So when the landlord answers the phone, you can say, okay, I'm phoning about a 2-bedroom apartment, is it still available? If he says yes, you can say, when can I see it? And then you can set a time right then. Because if you say, oh, you know, I don't know my schedule yet, I have to talk to my husband, oh, I have to see if I can get daycare for my kids, oh, I have to. If you call back a day later, you might not get a hold of the landlord. So try to get all of your organization done before you make the phone call so that you can set a time right then when you have the landlord on the line. Then, if he tells you to come at 10 a.m., be there at 10 a.m. Don't be there at 10 after 10 because he will probably be gone. And because we have a low vacancy rate, landlords aren't worried. If you don't show up at 10 o'clock, they just go on and they know, oh, I'll get some more calls today. So you probably will have missed out on that apartment. In fact, at New Journey Housing, we've had clients that they come in the next day and they say, oh, I couldn't go because my baby got sick. So we phone the landlord and we say, oh, their baby got sick. Can we make an appointment for today? The landlord says, no. He says, if they can't even make it to an appointment, how are they going to pay their rent on time? Is that fair? No, it's not fair. But unfortunately, because landlords know that they can get a renter, they don't need to be patient with you. Okay? So I'm sorry, but I want to tell you the facts. Okay. When you go to sign a lease, you are going to be asked to pay a security deposit or a damage deposit. A damage deposit is legal in Canada. It's the way we do it. So the idea is that if you damage your apartment, that the landlord will use that money to fix it up. Okay? So the way it's 1/2 of 1 month's rent. So if your rent is $600, your damage deposit would be $300. Good luck getting rent for $600. So this is how it works. You are the tenant. So on the day that you move in, or sometimes on the day that you apply, it can be different. You can pay it at different times. So you pay your damage deposit to the landlord. The landlord holds onto it the whole time that you live there. So if you live there 1 year, he keeps it for 1 year. If you live there for 3 years, he keeps it for 3 years. At the end of the time, the landlord gives that damage deposit back to the tenant. But notice that there is a big if here. If your place is damaged, or if you leave it dirty, or if you leave furniture in the apartment and the landlord has to move it out, then he will keep the damage deposit. In fact, if you do lots of damage and it is more than the $300 that you paid, he will send you a bill for more. So, when you live in an apartment, you must be careful and you must treat it carefully. Okay? So when you spill Coca-Cola on the floor, clean it up. Clean it up really, really good, because if you don't, it's going to just catch all the dirt and stickiness and it's going to be a big mess and it's going to stain. But if you clean it up right away, you might save your damage deposit. So if the landlord tells you that he is not giving you your damage deposit back, you can ask him, what are you spending that money on? He has to tell you, I'm spending $100 on cleaning the carpet, I'm spending $100 on fixing that hole in the wall and we have to paint that whole wall, and I'm spending the other $100 on, oh, your kids put crayon all over the walls, so I have to get somebody to clean that and then we have to repaint that wall. They have to tell you what they are spending it for. If they don't, then you can go to RTB and say, he didn't tell me why he was keeping my damage deposit, but he's keeping it. Okay? The main thing is to just keep your apartment good from the beginning. Sometimes when you go to sign a lease, the landlord will say, well, you are very new in Canada, and we don't know you. And you don't have any rental history, so how do we know if you're going to pay your rent? Okay? And you say, I don't know. The landlord will tell you that you need to get a guarantor or a co-signer. Now, what this is someone who signs a paper that says, if Joe does not pay his rent, I will do it. Not in those words. It's much more formal, but that's what it says. If I sign it, and I sign for you, and you don't pay your rent, I will be responsible to pay your rent. Okay? And in Canada, this is legal and binding. So if I don't pay your rent, it's my credit history that's going to get wrecked, not yours. Okay? So if you ask a friend to sign as a co-signer, make sure that that friend or relative understands what they are signing. We have seen friendships end over this. We don't want that to happen, okay? So if you're getting someone to sign up, make sure that you understand it and make sure that they understand it. When you go to your landlord to sign a lease, it might look like this. This is kind of a standard lease that you could sign. Basically what it shows is, it says that it's between the landlord and you. And it tells where the property is, and then it goes on and it talks about when does it start and when does it end. And then on the inside, it talks about all of the things that the rent is going to cover and the things that the rent is not going to cover. So when you sign this lease or rental agreement, it is a legal agreement between you and your landlord. And you will need to sign it before you move into your apartment or your unit. The most common lease in Manitoba is 12 months. But sometimes a landlord will rent on a month-to-month basis. But the most common is 1 year. So if you move into an apartment and after 6 months, you get a job in Edmonton. I have to move, but I have 6 months more on my lease. What you are going to do is break your lease. Now, there are right ways to do this and wrong ways to do it. The right way to do it is to go to your landlord and say, I got a job in Edmonton and I need to move in 6 weeks. The landlord will tell you what he wants to do. Usually you'll have to pay a fee. It'll probably be around $60. After you pay the fee, he will tell you, okay, now you need to advertise this apartment. So you're going to go onto Kijiji, because it's free, and you can advertise your apartment. And you can say, I have an apartment for assignment, and it starts on July 1st, and the rent is this much, and call me at this number. They are going to call you. You are going to say, okay, I'm home at 7 o'clock tonight. You can come and look at it at 7 o'clock tonight. They come and look at the apartment. If they like it, then you can give them the rental agreement from your landlord, or they need to go see your landlord. Some places do it one way, some places do it another way. They will need to fill in the application for tenancy. The landlord then makes a decision on whether they are going to rent it to you or not, rent it to them or not. So if you do this, make sure you show the apartment to as many people as want to see it, because you don't know which ones are going to be accepted and which ones aren't. Okay? So if you show it to 10 people, that's okay. Maybe one of the 10 will be selected to take over your apartment. If they take the apartment, you will get your damage deposit back and you are done. Okay? But if you want to leave your apartment and go back home for 3 months, but you don't want to leave it empty, so you want your friend to come and live in there, that is what you call a sublet. A sublet means that they are going to move into your apartment and they are going to live there for 3 months. The damage deposit is going to be mine, not the new tenant, but the original tenant. If they do damage, my damage deposit will pay for it. When I come home, the person who is subletting will move out and I will move back in. Okay? So there's two different things. If you see sublet in the paper, you should always call them and say, is this a sublet, or are you planning to come back or not? Because many people in Winnipeg use this word wrong. And usually they mean that they're not coming back. So there are two different definitions, and, but you need to realize that it's okay to phone them and ask, because it's used wrong many times. Now, whatever the case, whatever kind of a lease you have, you always must give your landlord 1 month notice. Even if it's a month-to-month lease, you have to give him 1 month's notice. Okay? So if you want to move out on February 1st, you have to give your notice on December 31st. Okay? When you sign a rental agreement, make sure that you understand what you are signing. Make sure that you know what the rules and regulations are that you need to follow in that apartment. If they're not listed on the lease, you should ask, are there any rules that I need to know about? It's okay to do that. You need to find out if your rent includes utilities. So sometimes it does and sometimes it does not. If it does not, you need to know that. Because we had a lady that rented an apartment for $450 for her and her daughter. She was delighted. It was in January. And 1st of February, she got a bill for $400 for heat. So if you are renting an apartment, ask if the utilities are included, and you can ask what the average cost was over the past year. That doesn't mean it'll be exactly the same for you, because if you turn your heat high, it's going to be higher. If you turn your heat low, it's going to be lower. But you can ask for an average. And if the average is really high, you can guess that the heat bill is going to be high. Okay? Any questions on it? Okay. You need to make sure you understand the date of move-in. We've also had people make mistakes with this. You think that you are renting an apartment for March 1st, but the landlord thinks he's renting it for April 1st. And the previous tenant thinks it's for April 1st. So make sure you look at it carefully. Don't make assumptions and sign papers. Read it and understand it. Okay, the next thing is the condition report. The condition report is a very important document that you fill out on the day that you move into the apartment. You're going to look around at things and you're going to mark it on the condition report. The reason that you do this is because then when you move out a year or 2 or 3 later, if the stain on the floor was there when you moved in and the landlord says, oh, I'm going to have to charge you for that, the stain on the floor, you can say, no, the stain on the floor was there on the day that we moved in. See, we marked it right here. That's why you do a condition report. If your landlord does not do condition reports, and some of them don't, get a digital camera. If you don't have one, borrow one from a friend. Take pictures of everything that is questionable. If there's marks on the ceiling, if there's marks on the walls, if there's stains on the carpet, take pictures, send it to your landlord or caretaker, and keep copies yourself. Okay? Always keep copies of those pictures so that when you move out, you have proof of what it looked like when you moved in. Okay, eviction is when the landlord asks you to leave for one reason or another. The main reason for people being asked to leave is because they don't pay their rent. If they don't pay their rent, the landlord can give you 4 days to move out. In Canada, paying your rent on time is very, very important. Now, if you run into trouble, your daughter gets sick, and you say, oh, my daughter got sick and I had to buy medicine, so I'm short on my rent. Phone your landlord as soon as you find that out. Don't wait until the due date and he comes to pick it up and you say, oh, I only have $300 today. No, phone him and make arrangements. Say, I've got $300, and I'll pay you the other $300 on the 7th when I get paid or when I get my next check. Okay, make arrangements. Don't assume. Most of the times when you sign a lease, there will be some kind of a penalty if you're late. So landlords don't usually kick you out if you are really trying. So don't live in fear, but communicate with your landlord and try to, build that relationship. Pay your rent on time, 90% of the time, and then maybe they'll be patient with you on the one time that you can't. Bad checks. Ooh. If you write a bad check for your security deposit, RTB says that a landlord can ask you to leave in 5 days. Now, a good check is when I write a check out for $300 and the landlord takes it to the bank and there's $300 in my bank account and it comes out and he gets paid. A bad check is when I write a check out for $300, I give it to my landlord, the landlord takes it to the bank, but there's only $250 in my bank account. That's a bad check. The bank will send it back to the landlord will call you, the bank will charge the landlord will charge you, it'll cost you money. Now, if you break rules, the landlord is supposed to give you warnings. So if you break a rule one time, usually you will not get evicted for that. He will usually give you a warning. And if you correct your mistake right away, no problem. But if you continue to do something time and time and time again, and all the neighbors are complaining, the landlord will continue to give you warnings. After so many warnings, he will say, okay, sorry guy, 30 days, you have to be out of here. And that's legal, okay? So when the landlord gives you warning, take them seriously and correct your ways. If a landlord sells their building, they have to give you 3 to 5 months notice before they can make you move out. So some of you have come to Canada with a dream of owning your own home. How many come with that dream? Yeah, many, many of you. You know what? It's a good dream to have. And at New Journey Housing, we take that dream very seriously. And we want to help you with your dream and to help you find your way. So we have 2 ways to help you. And the 2 ways to help you are with the Home Ownership Workshop. Again, the Home Ownership Workshop is going to take you about 2.5 hours. So it's 2.5 hours of your time. If you come with lots of questions, it might take 3 hours. Okay? But you are going to learn all sorts of things about buying a house. You're going to learn about a mortgage, which is just a big loan from the bank. You're going to learn about real estate agents. You're going to learn about what the bank requires of you in order to get that big mortgage. You're going to learn about down payment. How much of a down payment do you have to have before you buy a house? You're going to learn about other costs that you need to consider and know about before you buy your house. Things like taxes and insurance. Ugh, they're things that you need to know. After you have taken the Home Ownership Workshop, then again, we have the second way of helping you, which is personal advice. Now, I find that with most of the home ownership people, this advice is usually done by email. So they'll just shoot off a question, and then we'll shoot off the answer. Sometimes they will come in and we will talk, but it just depends on how it goes. These sessions are usually after the workshop. The other really good thing about New Journey Housing, in our home ownership area, we have really good volunteers. These volunteers will come and help you look at a house before you buy it. They will come and help you understand your house after you buy it. And these things are very valuable. So if you want that, then you need to come to our workshop and then work with our services, and we're happy to serve you. All of these services are free. All of them are free. The last thing that we do at New Journey Housing is we talk about budgeting. Because many times, money doesn't grow on trees and it doesn't fall from the sky. Maybe when you came to Canada you thought it was going to, but it doesn't. So we need to learn how to spend our money so that we can reach our goals. Okay, so the budgeting workshops, you can phone and ask us for a budgeting workshop, and we are very, very happy to do that for you. I think that's where I'm going to stop today. And what I want you to know is that you are welcome at New Journey Housing.